Good morning and welcome to the North Country Outdoor Channel. Thanks for joining me. How's everybody doing today? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope you're doing what makes you happy. And what am I doing? Well, I'm actually heading to the gas station because I haven't drove this truck in a while. And well, here's the question for you. Who out there drives, I would say, a 1999 to a 2004 Chevy pickup and your gas gauge is all wonky? Mine, I don't know. It's usually it goes up sometimes and lets me know how much fuel I have, and then it goes back down to empty. Right now it's not moving at all, so I'm guessing I don't have any fuel. I haven't drove it in a while, so I'm just gonna go ahead and top it off to make sure I don't run out and be that guy on the side of the road. So, and then when I get back home, I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to go over some of my tree removal equipment. I'm going to show you guys my chainsaws that I use. I think I'm going to start a new series of just showing you different equipment that I use to do my job. So stay tuned for that. So I'm happy I decided to come get fuel because as I was outside of my truck using my credit card at the pump, the truck died, ran out of gas right here at the gas station. So looks like I made the right choice to come get gas. I hate running out of gas. I've only done it a couple times, but you just feel so stupid when you run out of gas. It's especially like uptown on Main Street when there's cars going by and you're either out there trying to push the vehicle or you got a gas can and you're pouring gas into the vehicle and you just look like a complete idiot. So anyway, I'm happy I'm getting gas. When you put 24.9 gallons in a 25-gallon tank. Yep, that's me. It's looking pretty cloudy here today, so I don't know. I'm gonna try to do my chainsaw video, but it's starting to rain, so we'll see if that works out. So first things first, here on the channel we have a new producer. I would like you to meet my daughter Lexus. Now, do me a favor and be nice to her in the comments, because if you're not nice, I will attack you in the comments. She's my daughter, she's only 8, and it's kind of a lot to, you know, want to put her on the internet. So, yeah, be nice to her. Now we're going to get into the chainsaw. So, first of all, it's a little windy out here. I apologize. Hopefully, we're testing out a new microphone today. I hope it's doing a pretty good job at blocking the wind. So, if it's a little windy, I do apologize, but I'm going to first start out with the saws that I use the least, and then we're going to move into the saws that I use more or less every day. This is a pole saw. This is a steel KM90. This is what they call their combi head, and what it is it's just a power head, and you can buy different attachments. This is the chainsaw attachment, and it just goes in here like so. There are extensions that you can get to put in there to make it longer, but this is kind of a purpose-built tool that we don't use every day, but it's nice to have at our disposal if we do need it. Their claim to fame on this is just the simple fact that you can buy one power head and you can buy all sorts of different attachments for it. I have a weed whip attachment for it. I obviously have the chainsaw attachment, and then I have a hedge trimmer attachment. So it's kind of nice to be able to have all those tools that run off from one power head. So we'll move into another saw. Okay, these are two saws here that I rarely ever use. These were a couple saws that I actually had before I started doing tree removal, because I've always done firewood. So these saws, this is a Husqvarna 450 and this is a Husqvarna 445. They're essentially the same saw. The bars and chains are interchangeable. It's just that the 450 has just a little bit more power. These saws, you know, I don't really use them that much because they're not professional grade saws. They're more or less a homeowner grade saw. They're not really made to be ran every day hard. I don't know why I keep them around. Maybe a little sentimental value, but we do have them. They sometimes get grabbed to do, you know, brush up some or buck up some brush on the ground or something like that. These saws run a 18-inch bar and chain on them. But like I said, I do not use these saws very often. Now we'll move into a little bit of the bread and butter of the operation. This is a steel MS201T. It's a top handle saw. It is a commercial grade saw. It runs a 14-inch bar on it, and what the deal is with this is it's a top handle saw. It's very light, it's very versatile, and it's made to be run with one hand, like so. So when my climber goes up in the tree, this is what he takes. So he's not, you know, dealing with a big cumbersome saw up in the tree. Sometimes he has to take a bigger saw up if the branch is too big, but for the most part, this does everything that needs to be done in the canopy of the tree. This saw does not get used on the ground, and the reason for that is because we don't want to dull the chain. This chain lasts, one sharpening usually lasts anywhere from 4 to 5 tree jobs if we don't use it on the ground. And by not using it on the ground, there's less chance of it running into dirt and whatever you might run into on the ground to dull the chain. Nothing's worse than when my climber goes up in the tree, starts this thing up, he gets all set up, and then it's a dull chain and it doesn't want to cut. It's very frustrating and very time consuming. So this saw is strictly used up in the tree. This saw here, there's a little bit of an interesting story on this one. This is a Husqvarna 340, and this is a little bit of an older saw, but man, it runs really well. What it was is I had a customer that one day I was doing some work for him, and they said, hey, I got a chainsaw that doesn't run anymore, would you like it? And I'm like, you know, I'll look at it, thinking it was a cheaper saw or something like that. And I went and I seen it and I said, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And I went home and I poured the gas out and I put fresh gas in it and a new spark plug, and it started up on the second pull. So this saw has been deemed freebie in our fleet. We call it freebie, and this saw's purpose is it's a ground saw. Most of the time it sits at the chipper, and if there's a branch that is maybe a Y and it won't fit through the chipper, we'll just buck it up with this saw. We run a 16-inch bar on it, so it's not too long. You can get into certain places, tight spots with it, running the 16-inch bar. So this is probably one of our more used saws on the ground. Freebie is a great saw, and we really enjoy having it. Next, we're going to get into the two bigger saws that I have. These are the biggest saws that I have at the moment. This is a Husqvarna 562 XP. It is a commercial grade saw. This was a problem child for me. In the beginning, this saw did not want to operate very well, and I think part of the claim to fame on this deal is these newer saws have electronic injection, and it readjusts itself according to elevation and where you're at, so you don't have to mess with the idle or anything like that. It's supposed to do it by itself, and that's frustrating because that's more electronic stuff that can go wrong. So when I first got this saw, man, it didn't want to run right. It had some issues. In fact, one time I was 30 foot up in the tree and it wouldn't start, and I just threw it. I'd had enough of it, and I took it back to the dealer and I said, make it right or I don't even want it anymore. And they did. They made it right, and it seems to run pretty good right now. It's the saw that made me want to start slowly switching over to steel products. I understand that steel and Husqvarna and John Surratt, they're all kind of, you know, the Ford, Chevy, Dodge. You know, people love them, people hate them. Obviously, I run Husqvarnas and I run steels in my fleet, so I don't really have too much bad to say about either of them, but at this point, I start to prefer steel over the Husqvarnas. But this saw here is, we run a 24-inch bar on this saw, and we also have an 18-inch bar for this saw. And what these saws are used for is once the tree hits the ground, we'll buck them up with these. And I will say that most of the time, the 18-inch bar doesn't get used unless I'm out cutting firewood, because it's just, the 24-inch bar gives you more reach, it's easier on your back, you don't have to bend over as far. So that's just kind of, we just leave the 24-inch bar on it most of the time. This saw here, this is a Stihl MS362C. This is also a commercial grade saw. This is the newest saw that I have in my fleet. And this saw and the Husqvarna 562 are essentially the same thing in cc's and horsepower. There's just a little bit of difference, but it's not even really noticeable. It might be like 0.2 cc's or something like that. I'd have to look it up, and I don't want to, but take my word for it. They're really close to the same in cc's and horsepower. Now this saw here is, we have a 28-inch bar on this, and what this 28-inch bar is used for is strictly dropping the tree. Once we get to a point where we can come down to the ground and safely drop the tree, we'll use this 28-inch bar and drop the tree. It's not used for anything else. This saw also has a 20-inch bar that we throw on it that we'll use for bucking up logs and stuff of that nature. Now, you're saying to yourself, if you know anything about chainsaws, that these saws are not, they're not by any means huge saws. And I will agree with that. This 28-inch bar here, it actually takes away from the horsepower on this saw because they recommend that you don't run anything bigger than a 24-inch bar. So what did I do? I went and I bought a 28-inch bar. And the reason for that is we've talked about it before, is money is so tight and I don't have an extra $1,000 right now to go out and buy like a 440 and run a 35-inch bar on it. But then again, we don't have the trees here in Michigan that are ginormous like you might see out in the Pacific Northwest where you know, they're 4 foot in diameter on the ground. We just don't really see that here in Michigan very often. So I do run the 28-inch bar on this. It does take away from the horsepower. It's actually a noticeable difference, but it does get through the tree, and what it does is it keeps us from having to double cut. Come in one side and cut, and the bar's not long enough, so you come in the other side and you cut. And double cutting can be dangerous because it just causes weak spots in the tree, and then when you get back through to the other side and you start coming through the other side, you know, if there's a certain amount of weight up in the canopy or whatever, it, you know, it could twist, and I don't like double cutting. So that's why I went with the 28-inch bar, even though they recommend that you don't use anything bigger than a 24-inch bar. I will next year have a 440 or something comparable so we can run a monster bar on it, and that will only be used for dropping the trees. But for right now, I use what I have and we get by. I've talked about this before, that there's just so many things competing for your money that it's just not in the cards right now to go out and drop money on something when what I have works. People, you know, people are gonna roll into the comments and they're gonna make fun of me, and that's okay, but I have a business, I'm doing the work, and I mean, it's working for me. My equipment works for me. Would I like to have, you know, a bigger saw? Of course I would. Would I have liked to have bought one size bigger tractor? Well, now that I've ran this, of course I would like to have one size bigger. You always want more, but when you can deal with what you have and make it work until the proper time comes, strategic business planning, to go ahead and pull the trigger on something else, then you use what you have. One more thing I wanted to mention real quick, since we are talking about chainsaws, is at this point, I run Husqvarna bar and chain oil. They make a summer blend and a winter blend, if you didn't know that. The winter blend has an orange cap and it's thinner. This is the summer blend, and I run this. Now, I've been told by people that are in the business, and leave a comment if you have any input on this, that I don't have to spend $13 a gallon on the Husqvarna brand when you can go to Tractor Supply and get it for $6 a gallon, the Tractor Supply brand. Now, of course, the dealer's gonna tell you that you gotta run this, and if you don't run this, then you're liable to have issues. But I've talked to several people that say that they don't have any issues, and they've been running, you know, Tractor Supply brand or whatever, Logger's Choice. There's a lot of different brands out there that you can run that's not your name brand, that's a third of the price. So I'm really strongly considering switching over. I mean, it feels good to run a name brand oil, but then again, it costs a lot of money and it doesn't make my wallet feel very good. Now, when it comes to the gas, I run, if I can, I have to travel about 10 miles to get it. I like to run recreational fuel, premium recreational, because it doesn't have any ethanol in it, but I don't always get the recreational fuel. But I do always run premium in my chainsaws, a minimum of 91 octane, preferably 93, and I use Husqvarna XP synthetic oil. So that's something that I won't steer away from, is the oil that I use to mix the gas with. I will always use a name brand oil. I like the Husqvarna oil because it gives the gas like a blue tint, and you can really tell that it's mixed. And then if you use not that there's anything wrong with the still oil, because I have that too, but it doesn't give it that blue tint that really lets you know that the gas is mixed. It's more of a gray, and I like the blue tint. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, and that's my opinion. So that's the oil that I run. Again, leave me a comment if you've had experience with running cheaper bar oil and I can get away with it, because essentially at $6 a gallon, you know, and this is like 13, I could buy 3 gallons of the cheaper stuff to 1 gallon of this. What makes this so special? I don't know. If you know, let me know. And in case you're wondering, this is kind of the start of a new series. I'm just gonna show you what I use to do my job. Of course, I do snow removal, and fall is here. So winter is just around the corner. We'll go over some of my trucks and plows, and obviously I have more equipment when it comes to the tree removal. I just wanted to share with you my chainsaws because I get questions asking what saws that I use. Now, I do need to do another video because I have 9 different bars and 9 different chains that I use on these saws, and how do I keep them straight and not get them confused. I have a method on how I don't confuse my chains, and I'll do that in another video coming up real soon. Maybe I'll just do that one next since I'm on the chainsaw kick. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I wanna thank you so much for joining us. I wanna thank my new producer, Miss Lexus. She did a fantastic job, which you won't see where I said cut and go and all that because I'll edit it out, but take my word for it, she is fantastic. Thank you for hanging out with us today, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Hey, if you're watching this on Facebook, link in the description, go ahead and hit that and it'll take you to my YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to me on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it. I'd love to have you as a part of my YouTube family. It's growing and it feels amazing, and thank you for the continued support. We really do appreciate it. Just remember, tomorrow's a new day. Be creative and own it. You are beautiful. You are amazing. I love you. Lexus loves you, and we will see you next time.